Alright guys, in this video we're going to be going over assessment centres. So you guys have gone through the process of raising your EPs, or at least selling the product, and now we've got to select the right EPs to make sure that who we raise will get accepted onto different opportunities abroad. So remember, we have two different programs. We've got the GCDP and the GIP, and you've got to remember that these two things are assessed on slightly different things. GCDP is a lot easier to get on than GIP, and so we can be a little bit less stringent on how we assess them. But I suggest that we go through this sort of assessment process. Now remember, number one, the first assessment is in the application stage. You guys are going to have lots of applications coming in through by the application deadline. After that's passed, you have to read through their applications, make sure that they're of certain quality in terms of academic skills, work experience, where they want to go, whether they're going to be flexible, just things like this. And if they're of competency, then I suggest you invite them to the assessment centre. So this is here we are now. Before we do an assessment centre, we have to think about what competencies we want to have in our members. So again, that goes with the flexibility, academic skills, maybe communication skills, maybe teamwork skills, all these different things. It would be quite a good idea to maybe go onto some TN forms and have a look at what competencies they're looking for. Anyway, say we have our competencies. Now we have to design an assessment centre around those competencies. Here's a very simple one. You guys may have gone through this when you were selected into AIESEC. You may have gone through this before because you're a vice president, and you've had, or because you're an experienced member and you've already done these assessment centres. But here's the general gist. Let's say we get 36 people come to the assessment centre. I'm never saying that 36 is like a normal number, it's quite a large number for AIESEC UK. But let's go for these numbers anyway. So 36 numbers. Now, these can be split into three different groups of 12. Group A, Group B, and Group C, all in 12. So you've got 12 people go to an interview, 12 people go to the team game, and 12 people who go to the presentation skills. I'm not saying that these are the only things that we're going to do in AIESEC UK. You can be creative on this, so long as you're assessing the competencies that you want to have assessed. I say interview is quite a very, very important one because you can get a lot out of that. But the difficult thing is that you need a lot of different facets. So let's go back into facets. Each one of these is going to require a different number of facets. First of all, you always have the time bitch. The time bitch is the person who makes sure everything is running on time, make sure it looks like a professional unit. Remember, we're going to try to improve the brand this year, so if we can make this look good, everyone wearing the shirts, everyone wearing AIESEC clothes, and everything being on time and prepared in advance, then this will really add credibility to your product. Anyway, so we have the time bit, making sure everything goes on time, and then maybe you have to have a facet for this one as well, the team game, and a facet for this one to make sure they feel the presentations. And for interviews, to make things go quicker, let's say we have 4 facets. Now, we come into a problem. Because let's say each interview takes 10 minutes, and even if you have as many as 4 facets doing the interviews, you're going to have 3 waves of 10 minutes. That's going to take 30 minutes, and of that time, 8 of the 12 people in Group A are going to be bored shitless. So we need to have something for them to do over the next 20 minutes while they're being interviewed. And this is where we come up with the recess. So as Group B comes out of presentation skills, we split them into 2 groups. The first wave of people going to interviews. There's 4 people here. And then you have 8 people going to here. And remember, we have our 4 facets here, and we maybe have 1 facet there. You have your biscuits, you have your lemonade, and you have a presentation on AIESEC.net. Maybe it's not a presentation, but it's basically a facet going on AIESEC.net and showing the 8 people waiting for an interview who are not preparing for the interview or are not bricking themselves in the corner. The ones who are relaxing and they just want to find out more about AIESEC. This guy can be starting selling the products. This guy can be showing the different products that are out there, showing how AIESEC.net works. And at the same time, he can secretly be assessing these guys to see whether they're going to be flexible enough to go on the work abroad program. And then after these 4 have finished, they go back into recess and the next 4 go in, and you've got a wave that takes 30 minutes. And that means, when you come back to here, you can have 30 minutes in each station. Now, if you have, say, 10 minutes at the start, say introduction, where you give people their name tags, and on each name tag you have a different letter for each group, and you explain a little bit more about AIESEC and where they are right now in the process of getting into AIESEC. You have 10 minutes there, you have another 1.5 hours here, and then 10-minute wrap-up, and you're done within 2 hours. Nice, efficient assessment centre, okay? Now, let's say we have the assessment centre completed. It's very important to have your little debrief at the end. So book a room for 3 hours, so that you can have a half hour start to prepare for the assessment centre in case people come in early, in case you need things to do, in case the internet doesn't work, all these different things. And then you have half an hour to an hour afterwards to run through the assessment centre and assess different people and different things. Now, as they go through all different little stations, they'll be getting different scores out of 10, let's say, on each competency. And this gives us an output for the assessment centre. Come back to that a bit. Now, this is an idea that we haven't really done in the UK for, as far as I know. It was an idea that was given to me by an HR person from the BBC. Now, she told me that why don't we have each EP that goes through our system has a different competency. Let's say this is communication skills. This is team skills. This is academic. Okay, all these things, and we can give them a score. Okay, so this person looks like a person who's really good at university but isn't very good at people. And then there's another person who's got the same competencies as these guys, but then I don't know, 7, 8, and right sideways, and I'd say 7 again. Okay, so this guy's quite a well-rounded individual, quite good at the university and things like this. Now this person, he might be good for GIP, but these things make him not a very good team player, so do we reject him? Yes, we do. We reject this guy out. But this person, who's quite well-rounded, who's gotten good grades on all these things, means we accept him onto whatever program that he wants. And also, when we have the EP applying for whatever TN they're taking, they can send this within their email and say, I was assessed on these different competencies by AIESEC in the UK. I am competent in these different areas because that's what they said. It, of course, is very cardinal, and somebody could measure somebody else, measure one guy by so many marks, and the other person doing another assessment section of the assessment centre could be a bit more cruel and a bit more harsh in their marking. But the reason why we have so many different things to assess people on is that the more important things get assessed more than once, which means you get an average figure. Another great way of using this is because, say, GCEP and GIP, because these two are of different level of qualification, this one's easier to get into than this one. So anyone who got, like, I don't know, on average 5 or more can get into GCEP, and anyone who gets 7 or more on everything gets GIP. That means you can credibly say to people who don't get onto the scheme, I'm sorry, this is why you didn't get onto it. Or if they applied for GIP and they weren't skilled enough, we can say, I'm sorry you didn't get to GIP, but you are quite qualified to get to GCEP, and then go through the GCEP product with them. Of course, they might not be interested because they probably want to buy into the product for the professional development rather than the society development, and it's a completely different product. But you've always got that thing to say. Anyway, as a wrap-up, when doing assessment centres, think about, first of all, what you want to assess. Then you have to think about how you're going to assess them by doing a little different activities. And after that, think about what resources you have. This may be room bookings, it may be materials, and most importantly, it certainly will be human resources, the amount of FASIs that you have. Bearing in mind that the assessment centre that I drew had one time bitch, one person to research, one team game person, one person presentation skills, and 4 people at the interviews. That's 8 people, so you need to have 8 people to do that one assessment centre. So think about your resources, and knowing what you want to assess and what resources you have, think about how you can actually think about how many applicants you can support. So with only so many resources, you can only support so many applicants. So don't have 40 people come to an assessment centre that's only suitable for 20. And finally, once you've got how many people it's suitable for, what resources you have, and how you're going to assess them, build your assessment centre. And I wish you the best of luck on this. It's a bit of fun. And tell you what, it'll be really good when you go for your graduate interviews when you're graduating from university. Because can you imagine going to an assessment centre, then running through what the agenda's going to be like, and you go, yeah, don't worry about it, we organised 4 last year. No, see you in a bit.